Back with my Valkyries coverage. I went to Vegas last weekend, had a really good time, but I had missed those two games. I watched them, but I couldn't cover them. And by the time I got back, free agency, NBA, and I'm back on the beat for this Valkyries team who, at this point, I'm going to stop doubting their competitiveness, like night in and night out, because there's been several games, the Lynx, the Liberty, being the top teams, and just games where you're like, oh, they're probably going to get throttled here, just within the context of the season. And they show up every night and compete. And for such a new team with all these players coming in and out, it's super impressive. And they finally seem to have their roster set now. We got to speak on it. Julie Van Loo gets cut after winning the Euro Cup championship for Belgium. They allow her to fly back to the Bay Area and miss the parade only to cut her. And look, man, the context is everything. It always is. And you heard Nakase say, hey, that's something we want to do in person, face to face. Yeah, usually if the context is that the player is local and already there. But when you add the fact that she rushed back to the team, you don't need to do that face to face. So I think a lot of people are upset as to how the Valkyries handled that. They haven't had very many missteps in this early, foundation of this organization, but this seems to be one. And then you talk about, from a roster standpoint, keeping Chen. There's also the dynamic of jersey sales and, the Asian culture in the Bay being so big. And is it partly that, right? I don't know. What I'll say is Chen, she's looked good in the minutes she's gotten. I think that she's a better defender than Julie is, but she honestly kind of seems to bring the same thing to the table that Burton does. High energy defender. She's not the defender Burton is. Burton is an all defensive team player, but kind of can't get in, can't stride in the open court and can't get to spots, but she's quick. She plays hard. She may have a little more offense than Burton. That's been my knock with her, but I'm not going to get into that one on this video. But what I'd say overall is, as erratic as Julie Van Loo can be offensively with some of the turnovers and stuff, her ability to explode offensively with her passing and the way she can get the pace going, I feel like it's needed on this roster. I understand that maybe Chen fits more of the identity of defense and, hit the floor first and all that, but you've got to blend in different mixes of players. And that's the thing with the W in the women's game. They're going to value the chemistry between the girls more than the talent. So while Van Loo may be a more talented player, a more fun player to watch to a lot of the fans, the chemistry matters. And there have been times in my breakdowns where I've noticed Kayla and some of the other vets kind of like just frustrated with Julie and, how energetic and sporadic she gets. I said the Jordan Poole thing, right? She's excitable and she's a high risk, high reward player. And I just don't necessarily think that that's Nakase's personality and the identity that they're forming. And again, the relationships between the girls on these teams is more important than, in the NBA with these guys, where they can we see it all the time. They may not necessarily get along, but they can play together. In the girls' game, it's a little bit different. So I think you have to take that into account. But like I had mentioned previously, I think that we're seeing, here's my overall take on it. The W hasn't had a lot of eyes on it for a long time. Now it's getting there, right? The Caitlin Clark boom and just the game growing with how good these girls are coming up now, the Paige Beckers, and it's growing finally, right? But because there hasn't been as many eyes on the W, there have been more people in different positions that have been getting away with not doing their job properly or not doing it well. And that goes from some of the announced teams, the replays. Have you noticed the replays and the scoreboards and the telecast, the refereeing? Like, there are all these little areas of the game that I think can get better, and people maybe haven't been held accountable to doing their job at a high level because there haven't been as many eyes on it. And now that it's growing, hopefully they can clean that up. One of them being the scouting. I understand the dynamic of the women, the girls, and their personalities meshing, but you look at Kayla Thornton making her first All-Star game at 32 years old. It's an incredible story. It's super well deserved. And, but I think it goes to show that there's not enough opportunity. She's probably deserved this opportunity sooner to show this. But you look at the Sparks cutting Ari McDonald, and now she seems to be a key piece for this Fever team as this like bulldog defender, and so my point is I think that there are a lot of, back to the Van Loo and Chen situation, this is happening all over the league, and you're seeing these decisions where you're like, I don't know about this. And there are a lot of girls that aren't playing that maybe should, and vice versa, because of the politics of the W. And I hope that the scouting and the roster decision-making can get better now that there are more people paying attention. And that said, I'm going to root for Chen. The jury's still out. I haven't seen enough of her. But my initial instinct was, I think we needed Julie's offensive firepower and the way she gets the ball skipping around to in contrast to Burton and the other guards, right? Last night, they go into Minnesota, who to me is the best team in the league. If I had to pick who wins it this year, I think it's going to be the Lynx. And they're like the Spurs, right? They're like the best system in the W, with now the best player in Nafisi Collier, Queen Fee. And her game, it's hard to take her out of her game because she just works smarter, not harder. She gets to her spots without a dribble. She'll catch, throw it back out, relocate to her spot, catch again, and then it's just a pivot and a spin and a score. It's one of the more efficient offensive games in basketball today. They all can shoot. The system, Hall of Fame coach, like, they're that team, man. And my biggest gripe last night was going under the screens. Whether it was Courtney Williams, their other guard that comes off the bench, whoever, McBride, I just didn't understand that. I didn't understand going under the screens. I thought that was a strategic flaw, and you saw them take advantage of that. And then, the free throw discrepancy wasn't too bad. The numbers, they looked even, but that was my biggest, pet peeve with last night's game. But they're outmatched. They're the most talented team. Again, it's this, maybe not the most talented. Maybe the Liberty have the most high-end talent, but the best team that plays together, if you're talking about a team and a system, and then their best player just facilitates all of it. So, they're a monstrous team that has to be reckoned with. It was funny to see the Fever get them in that cup game, though, right? Like, it's crazy what an extra paycheck can do to the motivation of a defense, because I had never seen that Fever team defend like they did in Minnesota earlier in the week. But yeah, the Lynx, there's no shame in losing to them. But the other aspect, I think, is integrating back Janelle Salon, Chechi, who Temi is back, right? The roster is back and whole, and integrating them. I thought that both Salon and Zendelsini were out of sync. They just didn't have their rhythm, their confidence. They took a couple bad shots, and trying to integrate them back in late third quarter, early fourth quarter, those were the minutes where Minnesota really pulled away. But you got to do it at some point. And that's really my biggest question moving forward. I think with Salon, she has such potential, right? She probably has the most potential on the team. Carla, you could make an argument that Carla is right there. She's still out with the back injury. But I think that getting her to come to the Valkyries, they probably guaranteed her to start, at least initially. But I suspect Nakase has been waiting to bring her off the bench because she's so young. She doesn't do any of the little things. Like, she doesn't really box out. She doesn't really set screens. She doesn't really communicate. She's a hell of an offensive talent, but at this age, the little things aren't there. And so I would imagine that they maybe want to keep bringing her off the bench. But she was very not aggressive. Didn't have her confidence yet. Same with Zendelsini. So that hurt. And we ultimately didn't have enough offensive firepower. And back to the Van Loo thing, right? Where Chen and Burton was 2-9. To me, I said it in today's breakdown. I'll put the link in the description. She, to me, would be best served in like a GP2 role. We're talking about Veronica Burton here as like a guard that comes in and just guards 94 feet and is just this defensive stopper and can make plays. But for her to be the lead point guard and on the ball so much, she just leaves a lot to be desired offensively. She just, That's my thought on it. And Chen kind of seems the same in the same mold. So we'll see. Tip has continued to get buckets, even though she's a defensive liability. I thought Kate, with the Lynx, we were talking about the number 1 and number 2 defense in these teams with their size and their switchability at their size. Kate had a hard time kind of playing that bully ball. I want to shout out Talbot though, because she was the one I circled as the one that I thought they would cut. I didn't think it would be Van Loo. I thought it would be Talbot. She has played a lot better. 4 assists, 10 points. She's gotten much more aggressive offensively, breaking the paint, shooting the open 3. And so she's proven me wrong. I just think we see this in the NBA. It's like we kind of know who the guys are, right? And you're like, oh, that guy's gonna be like in W. It's fascinating to see night to night in the ups and downs of how they play and who gets the opportunity. But again, moving forward, there was no Leticia Amihir in this matchup. What would that have looked like down the stretch as opposed to trying to get Salon her sea legs last night? And that's what I'm most curious about, is how Nakase is going to juggle this crowded front court. Carla hopefully can be, maybe that's part of the argument of keeping Chen. When Carla's right, she's the offensive firepower in the backcourt. I can see that. But all of a sudden, we've got this, this front court here with Talbot playing better. You got Chechi back, who's probably the best shooter, right? Leticia, her motor, her rebounding. Mo Billings is the best screen setter. And Kayla's an all-star. Like, Nakase has a lot of options. And I'm curious to see how she deals with giving them all a proper opportunity. And on the given night, is it going to be matchup based? Is it going to be pre-planned before the game? We're going to have to find out. But, the Valkyries are going to make the playoffs. That's the way I see it. I'm continued to be impressed and intrigued with this inaugural season from the Valkyries. I'll be back to continue to cover the games, game to game. And I'm going to jump on right now and talk about the Warriors California Classic Game 1. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.